My name is Paul Hernandez. I'm the Executive Director for WELL. Thank you for joining us on this great milestone of history for us as we continue moving forward. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing two of our MCs for the night. First is Diana Mamou. She is a former council member of the City of South Pasadena and also one of our WELL board members. Additionally, we also have Sally Flowers. She's also a former council member with the City of Artesia. She is also a untapped graduate of 2018. So let's give them a big round of applause today.
Most of you know Victor Griego, but I had the pleasure of introducing him. Victor has been characterized as an organizer's organizer and a people person. And that's really, I think, what has made the mission of WELL so successful. The closing salutation of Victor's emails, if you've happened to receive them, is "Si se puede." And for Victor, "Si se puede" is not just a slogan. It's how he lives his life. And it's why WELL is here to celebrate the 10 years of success that he has had. And so now, please let me introduce the man that has caused us all to gather here tonight, Victor Griego.
Thank you, Dana and Sally, and good evening, welcome. It's not so much about how I started WELL, because that's not the real story. The real story is who joined me. Who agreed with the idea that Latinos needed to play a role in the water field and the water industry. And I just like to take a minute and share the story about those people, because without them, there would be no WELL. The first advisory board members, Miguel Luna, who's here tonight. Yes, absolutely. Adan Ortega, who's not here but was critical in what we did. Ron Gastelum, Ron's here tonight. Miriam Torres, Susana de Anda, Geraldine Mendoza, Pete Silva, Irma Munoz, Celeste Cantu, Tony Estremera, who's here, and Nancy Sutley. So these were the original advisory board members that got the work done early on. But a special shout out, as some of you know how a nonprofit gets started, we had a working board. And so I certainly want to recognize the work that Adan did, Celeste, Miguel, and Ron, because those four particularly did the day-to-day work, because we didn't have any staff for about 4 or 5 years, and it was these volunteer advisory board members who made it happen. And we have Miguel Luna, Irais Lopez Ortega, Tony Reyes Uranga, Gacilo Estrada, Gary Serrato, Tony Estremera, June Kim Lopez, and Diana Mahmoud as our board members currently. And many of you have heard about Untapped, the WELL Untapped program, and that's got to be one of the successes of the work that we started the Untapped program. Ron Gastelum gave the inspiration for the WELL method of inquiry, how we learn our water content through inquiry and creative thinking. But there's two special people I want to mention, and those of us that remember them know what I'm talking about. They passed away. Jose Ornales, the mayor of San Joaquin, a small farm working town in the Central Valley, passed away through COVID. Carmen Ramirez, a county supervisor in the county of Ventura. They didn't need to have everybody know who they were for them to be good public officials. They knew the pains and struggles of their residents in their community. And so tonight we honor both Jose and Carmen. So in closing, I just want to say the first 10 years, and I think Miguel Luna, our board member, my dear friend, said it well. He says the first 10 years, WELL focused on the human rights to water. The next 10 years, we're going to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you can have a statement like the human rights to water, but if you don't have the right people in the right places, a policy doesn't get implemented properly. So that's our challenge for the next 10 years. Let's go out and have a great celebration. We've got 2 great panels, and I look forward to hanging out and having a drink with you afterwards.
Good evening, and thank all of you for being here. We're going to ask each of our legislators that are present here just a couple quick questions.
The misconception is that when we get elected, I served 13 years locally as a council member, and the misconception is that we get to our boards and you know everything about everything, and the reality is we don't. And so I was privileged enough to be part of the early workshops when I was a council member, and I think it's so important that we understand these issues.
All of us, Latinos in the room, who have been given this blessing of leadership, but are we using it for the right thing? And I think that's what Victor did. He opened up the door to say one of the most precious things we have, of course, is good, clean, safe water.
I remember Assemblymember Garcia saying once that there are 1 million people in California who do not have access to clean and safe water. Think about that. Think about what that, here, the 4th largest economy in the world, and 1 million people do not have access. We have to do something. I look forward to our local elected officials, working closer with us as state legislators. We're gonna get money for WELL. We're gonna work in a tighter way with WELL. We're gonna get more education from WELL at the legislative level. And that should put us at the table to negotiate, whether it's bonds, whether it's legislation, doesn't matter what it is. We have to be at the table, and I'm really grateful to everybody in WELL.
As a local community college board member, having that opportunity to visit some of the places up and down the state to learn these issues firsthand, that was just my first entree into that water policy area, and to see it firsthand, to be at Feather River and other places. But this is such a complicated issue, and in the state legislature, many of the local elected officials here are going to run for state office one day. And so having that ground level experience in your respective district is so critical. You can bring that experience to Sacramento.
Water is the first principle of California politics. You can't do anything in this state, whether it's ag, whether it's trade. You can't do anything in this state without water, and it's an incredibly valuable resource. It's a resource that's literally been fought over in this state. It's a resource that caused people to be moved from one part of the state to the other. I was just down about 3 hours ago. I was walking on through the base of the LA River. The amount of work that we've done from an infrastructural standpoint, good and bad, right? Some of it just ecologically devastating that we've done in this state in order to move water from one part of the state, from one part of the city to the other, speaks to how important it is. And if you're part of those discussions, then you get to make fair and informed discussions. If you're not, then it's so much more of the crap that we've seen in the history of our state. So much more of that will continue to perpetuate. It is the single largest issue, the single largest theme in world history, and it's the single largest theme in California.
To me, it's unconscionable that we have people boiling water in the Central Valley that don't have access. And I think it's up to us, especially Latino leaders, to push to ensure that everyone is at the table making decisions, especially as it pertains to our Latino families.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. It is truly a pleasure and an honor to be up here and with my fellow colleagues now, that I can call my colleagues now that I've graduated from the Untapped Fellowship 2023 cohort. So thank you very much. Thank you. I'll start with what I have on my list here.
I think my biggest takeaway is how to ask the right questions. That really, for me, has been the most powerful takeaway, because I'm not an expert in water, right? Very few people are true experts in water, but we can know what our vision is for the future and for our communities. We know what that outcome is that we're all looking for, and with a lot of training and practice, collaboration and support, we can begin to refine the way we ask questions to be able to get to those answers. And the second part of it is representation and diversity in the room. I joined WELL, and I said, well, I'm not Latino, I don't identify as Latino, but my community, my city is 75% Latino, and my school district is 92% Latino. So if I'm really going to represent my Latino community, I need to get educated myself about issues that are most pressing to the Latino community and beyond, and I think that's what we're doing here today.
As Martha mentioned, in 130 years, I'm the first Latina to be elected as a county supervisor, and only the third woman in Madera County's history. So just offering that perspective and sharing my lived experience and being the voice for my constituency, not just my constituency, when we talk about these issues, we try to represent everyone. And so just sharing that perspective, our board in the Central Valley, most boards in the Central Valley are predominantly white Republican males. And so just being at the table, making room for others at the table, offering those perspectives. When I have a community of 600 connections that can't access their water because they have a big farm operation next door, that needs to be voiced and they need to be fought for. So offering that perspective has been beneficial. And then just like being confident in knowing that, hey, I belong at the table and I know about water, and a different perspective is okay to have and to share.
Tour the north, the central, and the south of the state of California regarding water tours. We've been able to see the needs and struggles and problems that some community have through the whole state. And the only way we can solve those is educating our community that water is a precious liquid that we need to conserve.
So how do you share with your colleagues the crisis of water? This is not a crisis in their mind. We just had a heavy rains. Oh, the drought's over. That's what our community thinks. So it's up to us to say, no, that's a temporary. We're living in a drought, and we're gonna have a problem for the next decade, beyond that. So it becomes incumbent upon us who are educated in water to share that. And somebody mentioned about water experts. You're right, there is no water experts. I consider myself, I didn't have a clue about water, didn't know what I didn't know. Now at least I know what I don't know. So it helps to educate yourself and share that education. That's the responsibility we all have in this room. We know this is an issue. We have to communicate to our colleagues and then to our community.